Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time Minimalist Run. We are now in the Spirit Temple as a child, and first things first, flying pots! But now we gotta figure out where we're going next. Obviously, we're gonna go to that small passageway, and before we do that, we get to meet a new character. Never before seen in this game up to this point. This is Nabooru, and honestly, if you choose the other two options, she's gonna scoff at you and be like, you're not really here for that, you lie. But then if you choose like nothing really, all of a sudden, she has use for you. She believes that, at least. This choice doesn't really matter too much, though. She'll still enlist you to help her no matter what. Now, Nabooru has a very small role in this game. Like this, you see her once here, once towards the end of the dungeon, and then later by the end of the game, but she doesn't have a lot of lines, but she has made such an impression that people have just taken to this character, Nabooru. Made so much fan art about her, fan fictions, all sorts of things. Nabooru has spawned a lot of stuff in the fan community. So, I'm not entirely sure. The game never really tells us what she needs these silver gauntlets for. I don't even know why she needs them. But apparently she needs them to get, back the passage the other way and push that silver block there. But I don't know how this is going to help her overthrow these witches and Ganondorf and stuff. I really don't. It just helps her, lift up heavy things. Yeah, stealing all the treasure is not really a plan. I don't think that's going to help stop Ganondorf and the witches at all. So, the level design takes a little bit of a downward spiral here in the Spirit Temple compared to, let's say, the Shadow Temple, Water Temple, and Fire Temple. It's almost like the different challenges and puzzles and stuff for the Spirit Temple is a lot more compartmentalized. It's a lot more separated into rooms rather than into the overall dungeon. Like, for example, the Fire Temple. I mean, that was brilliantly designed, centered around the Megaton Hammer and things you can do with it. So there were pillars that you could smack down to the floor below, you could fall between floors. Like, everything seemed interconnected, and the overall puzzle of the game was very what's the word? Was very much in like the whole thing felt more of a cohesive experience in design for the dungeons. Whereas here it seems like you're just going from one challenge to the next to the next to the next, and it doesn't really feel that interconnected. And I think that this to me is one of the weaker temples for it. Might want to get rid of these bats. You kind of want to aim a little bit higher than the actual bat to actually hit it. So there's several of these puzzles that you need to solve. Haha, one of them had hearts. That's instant death down there, so we're not going to go. And this is me not remembering what the heck to do. Like, I seriously didn't know what I needed to do here. But it was at this point where I was just like, I needed to bring something from the other room, flame from the other room, to light those two torches. So it's just a whole bunch of little mini puzzles throughout this dungeon rather than one big, you know, macro puzzle that encompassed the entire dungeon. I think the dungeons in later Zelda games were way more better designed, if you will, than this one was. And for most of the dungeons in this game, don't get me wrong, this dungeon is nice and all, but it was much better designed. And you saw that little splice cut there? Apparently I was coming at it all wrong. I should have been going through this door than the other door. I was actually going the exit-only route. So you have to go this route instead, and this can actually get you to where you need to go, to the other side of that fence. So I literally spent a long time trying to figure out what the heck I needed to do in that room, when all I needed to do was just take the other door. I think this is actually the first time you'll have faced a Stalfos as a child, so this is definitely, I wouldn't say a new obstacle, but it's new with regards to your character and how old he is and what tools or abilities he has at his disposal. Like, I think because he has a weaker sword than the Master Sword, it takes double the hits to get rid of the Stalfos. And I think he does double damage to his child, but I'm not entirely sure. I don't know why I have it. I'm not doing a good job with trying to bomb the Stalfos here. Which, if you recall, was a very valid tactic to get rid of them in Link to the Past. So you kind of have to get rid of him the old-fashioned way, because he's not going to leave you alone to solve the puzzle in this particular room. This little micro-puzzle in this room. I mean, I could understand the point for micro-puzzles in the final dungeon, Ganon's Tower, just because of how it's laid out and set up. But they could have done so much more for the Spirit Temple, but they kind of just designed it on a room-by-room basis. Oh, he's totally in the way. There. So you need to get him out of the way so you can swing this boomerang. Oh gosh. Around to hit that switch. Of course, you need to be a little closer, apparently. To drop the catwalk. A very tricky maneuver to do. Ha! We've got our Deku Shield back. The one that was burned way long time ago. Wow, that was not expecting that. That's for sure. Okay, these are called Anubis enemies, and they're unique because they kind of mirror your movements in the room. So if you go one way, they go the other in opposite direction. And every time you swing or try to attack, they blow a ball of fire at you. So you want to get him into this position, and then try and aim for that switch over there. And probably be a little closer. What you want to do, I guess, is get a little close enough to hit the switch, which I imagine is going to start a flame. And then you gotta move. Move. And pretty much force the Anubis into the flames and get rid of him. Because he's paying attention to you. He's trying to mimic your movements in the opposite direction, which I believe is similar to the Gorayas in Link to the Past. Okay, so now we're finally on the other side of this fence. Okay, and as before, we have another switch puzzle, or silver ruby puzzle that we need to solve. At this point, I think I've mentioned it earlier, it's kind of wearing out its welcome, and they're going to overuse this way too many times in the Spirit Temple. So we went all the way around in a circle just for that one key, solving little mini puzzles throughout the way. I mean, on one hand, I gotta give it credit to the designers, that this was really the first foray into 3D level designing in terms of dungeons and stuff, so I can't be too upset about, you know, how simplistic this particular dungeon design is, especially compared to the fantastic Fire Temple and Water Temple earlier in the game. But you could tell they were running out of ideas and out of design, interesting design concepts and things like that for dungeons. And here it's just like, well, we got these little minor ideas for certain puzzles and stuff. How about we just kind of just shove them into one level and be at it, you know? What was this? Bomb chews. Suspiciously given to you here for a reason. If you've never used bomb chews ever in this game, guess what? It's now time to use them. The one in... I think it's the second time? No. The Spirit Temples, I think, the first time you'll ever have to use them, and they're only used for puzzle-based stuff, and I forgot there was actually a battle in here. That's seriously the best shield for Liz Alphos. They just can't get through it. Okay, now that we got both the Zolfos out of the way, we need to not just aim the bomb chew, we need to time it too, because it's on a timer and they give you 10. Now I don't know what happens if you don't time it very well, which I clearly didn't. And that almost exploded just on top of me, didn't it? So this was a small little introduction to the sun switches. The switches that look like suns. You apparently need to put sun on them. So it's a nice little intro into how they work, so that when you see them later, you know exactly what to do. Now this room is kind of impressive. There's a statue of some sort of serpent goddess lady of a sort. Not exactly what I need right now. Out of all the temples, this is probably the one where I remember the least. Like, I didn't remember it as well as the Shadow Temple or even the Water Temple, which I've memorized over and over again, but for some reason, because due to the simplicity of this dungeon, I just never really memorized the Spirit Temple as much. So, given the splice cut earlier in the video, which you saw, I was very, very unclear of where to go into this in this dungeon, or what the puzzles or solutions were. Now, if you have the Scarecrow and you've given him the tune for him to show up, then that's definitely a place where Navi turned green there, that he would show up if you played his song. And you could, I think you could slingshot over there, or hookshot over there as an adult, and then, wow, that was a bad camera movement right there. And then I think there was a Skulltula, a gold Skulltula in that area, in case you were going for all 100. Yay, we have the map. So as you can see, it's very segmented. Very simple, very segmented, and not really a complex dungeon at all. And you basically take it room by room rather than the dungeon as a whole, trying to find keys, trying to backtrack, things like that. And I think the Spirit Temple loses a little bit of memorability, I guess, because of that. Anyway, I'm not going to harp any more on that, but I am going to harp on the Silver Ruby puzzle. We've done this how many times now? Seriously. Anyway, there are actually several puzzles in this room. Surprisingly. There is the Ruby puzzle, there's this Sun Switch puzzle, and then there is, I think, the Torch puzzle. So this is a triple puzzled room. The Silver Ruby puzzle is simple enough. The Torch puzzle is easy enough once you get rid of the bombos. And not even the Sun Switch puzzle isn't too bad, especially if you understand how they work now. Which you should if you got to this point already. Oh, jeez. That was a good jump. So, now the next stage in the journey. The Torch puzzle. Let's try to not die. Well, looks like we're going to be listening to this for the next foreseeable 3 to 4 or 5 minutes. Okay, finding the proper pathway through this room before your Deku branch runs out, before the first torch burns out, is kind of tricky. I think between the 3 puzzles, this one was the least important, because I think it just opens up a chest. And that's all you get. And this one is just tedious. I mean, not much more to say here. Just pull it into the light. Which I think you can in a straight line. Yep, there you go. So we're going to encounter a very new, very deadly enemy, which is one that's a return enemy from Legend of Zelda 2: Adventure of Link. And he is going to be very deadly, and we're probably not in top peak condition to face him. So we're going to encounter this dude in the next episode. So until then, see you later.